Senator Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkie. Appreciate your being before us today. Before I get into some of the specific veterans policy issues, I do want to express my concerns with reports about your opposition to equal pay for equal work and your record on diversity and your passionate advocacy for the Confederate flag. I'm not going to ask you about it at the committee hearing. I am going to be submitting questions for the records, and we do have a limited time, but I do want to get full answers back on those from you in writing. Mr. Wilkie, as part of the Mission Act, Congress expanded eligibility for the Caregivers Program, Senator Sanders mentioned, to veterans of all eras and added critically needed services. Accordingly, I worked to include in the Veterans Appropriation Bill almost $861 million for the Caregiver Program, $365 million above the President's request. So VA has the resources it needs to start implementing this expansion. So we need the VA to commit to making the needed reforms, to enhancing capacity, and strict oversight of this program's operations. So it's extremely important. If confirmed, I want to know, will you make this a top priority for the VA to fully implement the new caregivers law as Congress intended?
Absolutely. Yes, yes, Senator.
Okay. We will count on that. We will be watching. Mr. Wilkie, 2 years ago, this Congress gave VA the authority to provide IVF and other necessary fertility treatments for ill or injured veterans and their spouses. Access to this care is really important. It can help our veterans realize their dream of starting a family. But access to this care promised to our veterans is still difficult. If confirmed, will you ensure additional providers are enrolled into the program and any other necessary steps taken to make sure our veterans do have easy access to this treatment in the country?
Senator, women's health is the frontier, the new frontier for VA, absolutely. The issues that I confronted at DOD are similar to the ones at VA. And in response to Senator Moran's question, the Congress has spoken on the services that you just described, and we will move out on those.
Okay, well, this is really important. This is about veterans who've been injured. Yes. Through no fault of their own. Our country has promised to make them whole again, and being a family is part of it. So this is something I'm going to be following very closely under your jurisdiction. Yes. Senator Sanders asked about privatization. I appreciate that. I stand where he does, and that your answer was important to all of us. So let me ask you, I know DOD has been struggling with the rollout of the new electronic health care record. You're well aware of that. I have heard from providers in my state, from Fairchild Air Force Base to JBLM, about their dire concerns about the impacts on quality of care. You signed the contract to move forward on procuring the same system. We cannot see the same problems that DOD has experienced. So I want to know what you will do to oversee the rollout and what specific steps you're going to take to make sure quality and access to care is not diminished.
Yeah. Well, Senator, one of the reasons I got a lot of criticism for not showing up in VA and immediately signing off on the health care record. I wanted to see that it could work. I had the best minds from the West Coast and experts from other parts of the country take a look at it and convince me that it could work. I do want to say, though, that the report that we saw at DOD on MHS, I believe it's MHS Genesis, not working 2 years ago, I'm glad it didn't work, because what that was I'm the head of the, I'll give you an example. I'm the head of the Secretary's Close Combat Task Force. My job is to make sure that our weapons are tested, our systems are tested before we put them in the hands of any of our soldiers. The testing of that system was designed to show us where it wasn't working before we fully implement it. That is due diligence in business, it's due diligence in government. I believe that many of those problems that they were experiencing have been remedied because they found the kinks when they started the beta testing several years ago. I will not commit to putting any program online until it is properly tested.
Well, have you, since becoming interim VA Secretary, what are you doing to hire qualified leaders and what individuals so they can manage the implementation of this?
In the short term, I found experts in complex DoD systems to come aboard. It stopped when I left VA and went back to DoD. I will have to pick it up when I return, if I return.
Okay. Can you get back to me on that, on what steps you will take then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I do have additional questions I'll submit for the record.
Thank you, Senator Murray. Let me